What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 4 of Bottom Sprocket. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about electric motorcycles. I know we talked a little bit about them before, but I wanted to dive in and tackle this subject on its own because I've actually been thinking a lot about electric bikes lately.
This is a cathartic episode for you.
This is a cathartic episode for me. I have some experiences that I'd like to share because I was actually in the pits at Moto America for Energica's first ever podium in Super Hooligans.
That's insane. And how did you not melt? But were you just...
Because I had air conditioner and stuff. It was brutal, but yeah, it was an amazing experience being in the pits for their first ever podium. It was a pretty wild weekend, and I'd like to talk about that specifically. But I'd also like to talk about electric motorcycles generally because there's so much. It's a dichotomy, right? And there's no gray area here. It's either people are hardcore electric bikes or they're hardcore against electric bikes. And I'd kind of like to sit and figure out, how do we bridge that gap? How do we basically make it so that everybody can get along, one big happy family, and stop giving me mean comments in YouTube? So, leave me alone, people. Goddamn.
You want us to solve world peace?
Yeah, I figured we could do that in the 4th episode of the podcast today. So it should be interesting. Nobody's feelings are going to get hurt, and we're going to have some fun doing it. And if you are enjoying this series, do us a favor and subscribe on YouTube. I said it a lot in the last episode. I'm going to repeat it here. Once we hit 1,000 subscribers, we open up a lot of tools in YouTube that are not available until you get to 1,000. It would be very helpful if we could get there just so that we can continue to grow the show. And if you're watching or if you're just listening, please do us a favor. Check it out on YouTube. You'll be able to see our faces, which, you know, we're all in various stages of looking. Hey, at least the weather's good and we're not all melting anymore.
It's true, except for at Moto America last weekend.
Which
I was there for 10 minutes. Anyways.
And then you wanted to throw yourself off the roof.
Oh my God.
So do us a favor, subscribe on YouTube, throw us a like on whatever platform you're watching or listening on. And with that, let's dive on into the show. And I think I'm going to start just with this Moto America experience.
Please.
Because it was unbelievable. So I got an email from Stefano, the guy, the CEO of Energica US. And him and I have been talking on and off for a while. He actually came down to Austin to show me the Eva Rebelle RS, their flagship hyper naked motorcycle. It's a beast. It's 175 horsepower, and you get like 80-ish miles of range, 72 miles of range, which, given the amount of power and how fast that motor can dump its current, it's staggering that it gets that much. Huge battery, one of the biggest batteries in the business. And they have decided to go racing. I was talking to the CTO, he was there. It was against his better judgment that they did it. They were just like, he was like, no, let's not do it. We're not ready for it yet. And I guess Stefano was just like, no, we're going to go racing.
That whole class, the Super Hooligan class, is so much fun. And
yes.
So that is the spirit of Super Hooligan. Be like, no, we want to be safe. And then they're like, no, just go.
Just screw it and send it. Because yes. There were R9Ts, there were Pan Americas.
Dude, the Pan Am was so sick.
The Pan Am is unbelievable. And it's just, I could talk forever about what the Pan Am and Super Hooligan represents. So let's
next episode.
Let's avoid that whole topic here for a second. But they were in the pits next to all of these other guys with just 2 Eva Rebelles, and Stefano Mesa was racing for him. And the week before, or a couple weeks before at Laguna Seca, he got the whole shot for the first time, and he set a new lap record, I believe. He set a new lap record for electric bikes by like a second. I forget the exact numbers, but they're basically just making these huge leaps and bound improvements year over year. And then they gridded up to race in the heat. I was talking to the guys, and they're like, it's so hot here.
They clocked 125 on the track.
On race day, it was even hotter. It was even hotter on the track at race day.
Come on, man.
And the battery, in normal conditions, like if you're just cruising around, you know, it can handle the heat. When they're racing, it's a completely different story. And so they were very nervous. They were trying to set expectations. They were like, we'll probably be, you know, top 5, top 6, something like that. And the race starts, they get a lap in. Yeah, I mean, Stefano Mesa gets a great launch, because the coolest thing about electric bikes is you can just go. You just open the throttle straight to full and go. The bike just handles the rest of it. So he launches faster than just about anybody else on the track. So he's right out front, doing great work. And he was leading around the first corner, leading through the first sector. And then I believe it was O'Hara caught him on his FTR, because, I mean, the FTRs are just dominating Super Hooligans right now.
Because it is a fucking... First time I rode it, I was like, this is a hooligan bike.
Yeah. And they're just... Indian is throwing more money than God at Super Hooligan right now.
I like that for some reason.
Yeah, go for it, man.
Yeah,
go racing.
A lot cooler, yeah.
And somebody crashes out. I think it was a Pan America ended up crashing out, and they red flagged the race. So they basically had to restart it after a lap. And they had 5 minutes to get the bike back, get it on the charger, dump as much voltage as they could into the bike, to hopefully make the rest of the race, because it's 6 laps, but they have to do another out lap. So it's 6 laps, but they do an out lap, then they do a warm-up lap, then they do the race. So they technically have to do 8. Now suddenly they have to do 10. They were like, oh, I'm not sure. And then Stefano was just racing at the front of the pack the whole time. And he ended up, it was a battle between 2 FTRs. One guy gets bumped out at the last second and low sides or something. It was basically that they were trading paint through the last sector, and one guy crashes out, and then Stefano gets second place. It was unbelievable.
Okay, that's badass. I wish I would have been there. That would have been super cool.
Right there to get second place, and the feeling in the Energica pit was incredible. Everybody was they were so excited. I got a big hug from Stefano, the CEO of Energica US, and everybody was just celebrating. It was a huge celebration.
I didn't know Mesa was riding for them. That's awesome.
So he actually runs 2 events. He runs in
that's what I thought.
1000s in the Superbike, and then he also does Super Hooligan.
There's stock 1000s though, and then there's Superbike.
I'm pretty sure he's Superbike, not stock 1000.
Okay.
He changes. He rides a lot of seats.
Yeah, and so it was just this electric experience, and the coolest thing about it, not just that he won, but the footprint of the electric team is tiny. It's 2 motorcycles, 1 chest, and they don't have to tear the whole motorcycle apart and put it back together. It's so cheap for them to go racing.
So what happens if they crash?
They have a B bike, but they don't have to tear the whole motorcycle apart to like make sure the whole inside is fine.
Right. So it can take a beating.
It can take a beating, yeah. And they don't have to field a team of mechanics.
Right.
They set the suspension, they set the settings, they make sure everything's good, and then it's like, okay, go. have fun. It's so easy for them to do it. And I think what they're trying to prove right now is how simple it is for somebody to get on an electric bike and go race these sprints and be at the front of the pack. You know, you can just do it.
I like that they're blending. I thought they had their own racing category, but I like that they're just
they're
like,
in Super Hooligan.
Go have fun.
I think there's 2 electric bikes in Super Hooligan. There's the Energica factory, and then there's somebody else in the kind of mid to backpack that's on an electric bike as well, because I heard it going down the track. No idea who they are, but they were also running on an electric bike, which was cool. So with that being said, this is the only bike that's racing in America right now that's running at the front of the pack and electric. We do have Moto E that Ducati owns after saying they'll never build an electric motorcycle ever.
Right.
But that's pretty significant in its own right. Ducati, we're going to embrace biofuel, hydrogen before we get rid of a gas bike. And
I wonder what happened. I wonder, there must have been some talk or somebody witnessed something and was like, oh, you know what? Fuck, never mind.
Yep, it's time for us to get into electrics. So with all that being said, what do you guys see as the main things stopping people from getting either into electric bikes or even just allowing the idea of electric bikes to exist? Because some people see it as an affront to their mortal soul.
I just filled out an AMA survey about this.
Really?
Yeah, they were wondering why don't you own one? And to me, it was just like price and infrastructure.
Right.
It's like it's super expensive, and I've had poor, we discussed, I think it was in the first episode, I've had poor experiences just trying to charge a bike, and then if you charge at home, that's a whole fiasco in itself. So it's still like there's this really big hurdle as things are right now without the battery hot swapping, those things that are kind of on the horizon. Then I'm like, I'm so far from that. Like, that's not going to happen for me for a long time.
Right.
So that's my personal. If they were cheap, think about when Japanese came into the market. They undercut everybody. They were like, here's $1 million. Which one do you want? They all look different. They're super reliable. So it's like, not only do you have a brand new thing coming to the market, but it's expensive, and the reliability for charging it is like, free form. So that's hard to. That's why you get so many angry YouTubers commenting on your stuff.
I think price is the biggest thing that people bitch about after range.
Range.
But Josh, what about you? What do you see as like the main problem with electrification, I suppose? Or not electrification, because that implies that we're going to go 100% electric.
Right.
But just adoption of electric bikes into the community.
I think it's just humans. It's just humans. Like, people complain at any juncture like this when they're made to change away from anything. If you took ICE motorcycles out of the equation and only ever offered people electric motorcycles, it wouldn't be a discussion. But I think people just, they know they like something, and then they don't know if they'll like something new, so they just assume that, like, oh, I don't like it because I like what I have. People are just so kind of opposed to change, and then they get propagandized and they believe that, like, this is some assault on their liberty or some shit, and it's just ignorance. I mean, yes, there are technical challenges that we have not overcome. It's not there yet. I'm not riding an electric motorcycle, but, like, it's probably inevitable that, half the market, a lot of the market, a big part of the market in the future is going to be on electric. And it's this period where everyone's all mad about it, it's going to be a thing of the past. Like, if you can't see past that, then you've got blinders on.
There is an inappropriate attachment to their belief system. It's very strange. It's an inappropriate attachment when you get so full of rage. You're like, okay, it doesn't bother me the same way it bothers you.
We could start a whole other political podcast on the nature of how people have ascribed their gas bike to their political ideology, to their worldview.
And their bumper sticker and their patches and their...
But I don't want to get into all of that
sorry.
because we're gonna make so many people mad. But I think that a lot of it is overblown. I think people are especially here in the United States, people are going to saying that the government is going to force everybody into electric motorcycles. How? In what possible world do you think that the government are they going to send the cops to come collect
Hold on.
your gas bike?
I'm peeling a layer of skin back and I don't need to see the flesh. Is that really what they're saying?
People think that they are going to that the government is going to force them into getting an electric vehicle. That it's going to be Big Daddy Biden, Grandpa Biden coming in and being like, this is how it's going to be. That will never.
Those voices
ever
are
happen.
too loud because I don't know anybody like that.
I don't
roll
through my comment section, Whitney.
Want to? I'm scared.
But
They're taught to think that. That's like, it's propaganda again. It's literally what it is. There's someone with an interest in making a giant part of the population afraid of electrification. Like, there are specific interests that very wealthy people have, that if there's a bunch of very nice, lovely people who are out there thinking that that's going to be the case, then it's in their interest. And you're being fooled.
Yeah, they don't ever want to think that the fossil fuel oligarchs are brainwashing anybody.
Yeah.
specifically them, because nobody they know the best for themselves.
So the next episode is called How to Know You're Being Brainwashed and Lied to Through Propaganda. And we could point out and tell people this is kind of how it is and this is how you think for yourself.
But there is some validity to the fact that a lot of people ascribe the experience of motorcycling with the sound, with the vibration.
Yes.
Like at time of filming on Tuesday of last week, I bought a Moto Guzzi Grezzo. And
it's not electric.
It's very much not electric. It stinks like rich gas every time I turn it on. It rumbles like a Sportster. The whole head shakes when you're sitting in neutral at a stoplight. And the whole bike twists when you rev it, but I love it because of the feeling of that motor.
I mean, I have a bone to pick with DCT bikes. What does that say about me?
Yeah, because you like the experience.
You
like the experience of shifting. So even us, we have our predilections. I would prefer to ride the Grezzo that I have in the garage versus the Livewire that I have in the garage, just because the Grezzo has this whole experience of riding. But I would argue that the Livewire is not devoid of that experience either.
No, it's just different.
Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of people, if they took the time to ride one of these bikes, just not even, I'm not saying that it's going to completely alter the way you think about motorcycling, but I do think it's going to allow you to, if you don't like it, you'll understand why you don't like it.
It's
instead
the
of
same
having
reason we wanted everybody to ride a Z900 RS. We're like,
Yes.
you don't get it. You just need to ride one.
ride the Z900 RS versus a 919 and see what we're talking about.
We need to have a tour bus and we'd have demo rides. And they're existential, like life-changing moments. You're like, stop. We're going to change your mind for 1 second.
Yeah, it's really interesting with electric bikes how there's a bunch of folks out there who just knee-jerk, no. So having all of us have ridden electric bikes, what would you recommend what would you just say to somebody out there who's, you show up at a group ride or whatever and you're like, hey, you've never ridden this electric bike? You should check it out. Well, why? I don't want that. What's your response to that?
Come on, pussy.
Okay, well, if you don't want to ride a new motorcycle,
I
then
just want to make them mad and tell them to quit being a little baby about it. I don't know what my response would be. Yeah, you want to unearth curiosity out of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, come on, have fun, just try it. It's different.
Right.
I would hope that they would want to.
I would hope so too, but I think that some people just, because it's the boogeyman right now,
What would you say, Josh?
if you don't believe that like we actually need to stop burning so many fossil fuels, and you think you believe that this is a completely unnecessary liberal woke agenda forcing you onto electric motorcycles, then like, yeah, you would think that it's kind of dumb that we're making electric motorcycles that you have to make all these concessions for, and they're completely unnecessary in your view of everything. But I mean, I think they're awesome. Like, I think they're a lot of fun. Even the Zero, when I rode it around, like it's a blast. They're quick, they're fun, it's so different. That, I mean, if you're just closed off to it because of what it is, then I don't know, I'm probably not gonna change your mind. There's a whole lot more going on there than
you gotta tell them
just
to quit being a snowflake.
yeah, you're kind of being a snowflake, really. It's got two wheels and a motor, and it's fun to ride. Get over yourself.
I think the best thing I can say about an electric bike, especially all of the ones that I've ridden, is it's like riding an MT-09 that's always in the right spot in the power band to just accelerate. Obviously, you substitute MT-09 for MT-10 when you get to the Evo Rebella because it's so goddamn fast. But because you don't have to shift in the way that the power comes out, it's just like that. And you just, no matter where you are, you accelerate.
You've removed the lag time.
Yeah, it's just go. And that's the coolest thing for me, is just how easy they are to ride really, really fast. And I think that's part of the thing that made Stefano Mesa so dangerous, is he doesn't have to worry about his braking, or all he has to worry about is braking zones. He doesn't have to figure out, is this a third gear corner? Is this a second gear corner?
Nope.
Do I need to be at the top of first here? He just go. And he can focus more on the line. And this is something that I notice when I'm riding him. I feel like I'm trail braking like Valentino goddamn Rossi when I'm riding it. It feels so good with the regen braking that it's just like I'm going around a corner. As soon as I roll off, I'm trail braking perfectly. It feels so cool. And it makes riding twisty roads easy. I think that's the coolest thing. And that's what I would say. It's just be like, it's like an MT-09. It's in the perfect gear every time. And it's going to make riding this twisty road a dream.
I like how all of our answers are very, very us. I'm like, stop being a pussy. Josh is like, look, if you think the world isn't ending, I can't change your mind. But then Jake comes in and says, look, it's like an M209 SP. It's like, okay, yeah, you're the one that's going to convince anybody to get on it. And Josh and I are just going to throw our hands up and be like, fuck this guy. I don't know, whatever.
I feel like you would get a lot of people just be like, quit being a baby and ride it.
Yeah, I guess, maybe. It depends on the day and who I'm talking to, but that's me.
It's your right to ride whatever you want. It's your right to like whatever you want. Our individual actions are not going to solve the climate crisis. Like that's not the solution. We could all ride around on like my GS from 1983 that is just spewing out gases when I ride. It is the stinkiest motorcycle ever, and it wouldn't move the needle. But yeah, it's a different conversation.
Yeah, corporations thinking it's the consumer's burden is always kind of at the beginning of that argument.
I mean, you could argue that that's been a problem ever since corporations have been people.
Since recycling.
Yeah.
They're like, this is a you problem. You guys figure it out. You're like, oh, I see what's happening.
So one thing I want to talk about is price. Because I just recently rode the S2 Del Mar, which is Livewire's first motorcycle that they built.
And it's 6 figures.
But thankfully, no.
Oh.
It's actually the cheapest one. Well, I mean, they only have 2 offerings. One is the one at $23,500. This is $15,500.
Okay.
So we've got an electric bike now that's $15,500. They had to make a lot of sacrifices to get it to be $15,500. Very, very low range, and it doesn't have DC fast charge. And I'm releasing a video at time of filming tomorrow, talking about the S2 Del Mar, because I got to ride it, I got to do a big thing, and I was like, this range, it ain't good, but $15,500,
I know, but I don't want it. The range sucks, and it doesn't have the fast charging, but it's cheaper. It's like, oh.
So my question then becomes, what price are you willing to accept?
$5,000.
You want a $5,000
I want
electric
a $5,000 electric bike that looks cool, that sounds cool, it's cheap, and it's fun to commute on.
How about you, Josh?
Well, I think there's other issues to solve. Is like Whitney, you'll buy a $10,000 motorcycle because it doesn't have all the issues that an electric bike would have. Same with my bike. Like I only have 130, 140-ish miles of range on my gas tank, and I'm stopping mid-rides all the time to fill up. It would not work for me if I had to charge that thing back up. So I want the infrastructure for it. Yeah. I don't know enough about batteries or enough about electric motors to know if we're at any type of horizon for seeing a much more reasonable range that you can actually live with. I'd pay full price for a motorcycle, the amount I'd pay for a gas motorcycle for an electric one, just as long as I didn't have to overcome all of those new challenges that they present.
They have got to get over that hump. 500-mile range. Give me more range than a tank of gas. Give me beyond that. But even then, I'm like, okay, well, if I go 600 miles or I'm in Colorado riding long distance, you and I have been trapped in the desert. There's fucking nowhere to even get gas. So you have to solve that problem before you can really puncture the membrane of most consumers.
So for you guys, it's the chicken being the infrastructure before the egg that is the electric bike. And I do kind of feel like right now we're definitely egg before chicken.
Yeah.
So
they're working on price, and then I'm thinking about the cobalt mines or the lithium fields or whatever. And then coupled with the infrastructure and the range. So it's like, don't focus on price. But that's all that a manufacturer is going to be able to do right now. They're not going to be able to go out and put solar and wind power stations throughout all of California. They can't do that right now.
I think one of the biggest steps is going to be allowing all of these electric manufacturers to piggyback on Tesla's infrastructure.
Yeah.
Because once Tesla because Tesla is like, no, our infrastructure is ours, and fuck you, you can't use it. So it'll be really nice when they do allow other companies to piggyback on that infrastructure, pay whatever licensing fee they need, because it's going to just instantly open up a lot of access, especially in places here in Austin and around Austin where there's just Teslas everywhere. That'll really help. But I also think it's interesting. The biggest lithium deposit in the world that we know of was just found here in the United States.
Where?
I don't remember the details of the story. I'll post a link to it down below. But the biggest lithium deposit on the planet is here in the United States, and they just found it.
Oh, interesting.
And it's gonna completely change A, foreign policy, but B, the face of battery technology, because we just have access to the raw materials now. And it's here. So people, see the giant Samsung plant in Hutto here, or the Gigafactory by the airport.
Yeah.
They're not going to have to import the battery materials. They can just build them here. So I think that's going to really change what it looks like when it comes to mining this material, because we have ostensibly better conditions for these folks. Mm-hmm. And B, being here in the States means that we can reshore a lot of these battery tech jobs. And I think people will have a little bit more pride in a battery bike or a battery car that's built here in the States. Like if it's a Ford Lightning where everything is built here in America, people will get on board more. Or if it's a Harley E-Glide where everything's built here in the States, people will get on board more.
Yeah.
Because right now a lot of people are like, oh, they're all going to be made in China. Well, if we don't want to build them here, then yeah, they're going to be built in China. But we want to build them here, so we just got to build the infrastructure to do it. Mm-hmm. And I think people are just unwilling to do it, and that's ceding this entire market to the rest of the world. That's my whole diatribe on the state of global economies and so forth.
Yeah, the whole mess.
So sign your kids up to work for $2 a day to mine that shit out of the ground.
I mean,
it's not gonna happen here, but we do have like really good mining infrastructure, stuff like that.
Yeah, it'll certainly, I think, help, but it's gonna take years to get that operational.
Yeah.
Especially,
well, it depends on how desperate we are.
Does depend on how desperate we are.
Because they can do a lot when they're desperate, and they can do it fast. So,
what would solve
world hunger?
Well, yeah. I mean, it would be really nice to solve that problem. But beyond just the range and usability, are there any other issues that you guys have with electric bikes? Because honestly, the biggest thing I don't like is how a lot of these bikes look like they came straight out of Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah, none of them look cool, and none of them sound that cool.
Right.
So make it sound cooler. I don't know how to... There's so many different ways you could go with that, but make it sound cooler, make it look better.
There is a project out there. I forget what it's called, but it's meant to fit essentially a controller to an electric bike. It's supposed to be a universal part that has gears, like it's got a transmission and a foot shifter, and it basically looks at dyno charts for all these bikes. They spin one on a dyno and they see what the power curve for each gear looks like, and they set up like gear reductions in the computer to artificially make it feel like you're riding an R6 or an FZ07 or whatever, because the battery bike could theoretically behave like all these other motorcycles.
Oh God, that would be so sick if you could purchase a pack, right, where you're like, I want a 2017 whatever, and then in some sort of futuristic realm that doesn't exist yet, have it kind of look like one. Like,
right.
Like having a base bike that you could just... Then everybody would fucking have one.
Mm-hmm. If your electric bike could play pretend as an R6 one day or be a Grezzo the next, The weirdest thing about it, though, was it did play sounds. It tried to sound.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
No. I don't want it to fake sound like anything. I want it to have a new specific cool sound.
We'll put a baseball card in the spoke or something, it'll be fine. The sound doesn't bother me all that much. But there's Damon Motorcycles, I think is how you say their name. They make those yellow electric ones, and their ergonomics adjust between two settings. So the handlebars will come up and the foot pegs will go down for a more naked bike relaxed setting, or they'll come up and the handlebars will go down, just like if you wanted to ride a super sport. And that's pretty cool, but the thing probably weighs 600 pounds.
Yeah, if you add some really awesome, easy custom features, I think that might be a fun way to kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what time are we at?
We're at 35 minutes now. So I think the biggest thing for me too is there isn't a lot of tweaking that we've seen that's easy for somebody without a computer science degree to do. You know, I think that if, you know, anybody can bolt a slip-on exhaust to their motorcycle. It's 2 bolts on most bikes, and anybody with even 10 thumbs can get it done. But you can't break into the software on an electric motorcycle and make it be different than any other Livewire or Energica or whatever. You can't go in and program it
Not yet.
to feel different easily. Yeah, not yet. There are little bikes like the Solar Eclipse. You can actually go in and tweak the software and be like, all right, I want full power all the time. And it's basically just sliders. But I think if we got there with a lot of these bigger bikes, where you could theoretically essentially overclock a motorcycle like you can a CPU or whatever, maybe then we're talking about something where this bike feels a little bit different from that bike, you know? I think that would help a lot of people get more into it because they can tweak and they can change things about their bike.
Yeah. I think it'll become like running a mod for a video game, you know, or running cheats on a video game, which is pretty similar. You know, where it is like there is infrastructure where if you want to, you can go to a website and you can download it and you can see the install instructions, and you don't even have to be like that techie to be able to do it. Now, I don't cheat in video games. I don't want anybody thinking that like I've installed cheats or anything. But
Josh is over here.
Nope.
Yeah, he's a big old
no,
cheater.
I don't. No, I don't. But you know, I've been killed by a lot of people that do. That's for sure.
Spoken like a real cheater.
He's like, no, I'm not cheating. I'm evening the playing field. I also, I feel like when we get there, it's going to help people get more excited too, because they can just get in and then play with it. Like,
I keep thinking about vape pens, like how that blew up. You know, you thought nicotine was addictive. Well, here's a cotton candy flavored USB drive. I feel like the same thing is gonna happen with fucking electric bikes. Like if you give it that twinge, oh, I can get skins for my fucking vape pen, and it comes in a billion flavors. Oh, everybody would ride.
yeah.
I keep thinking about that. And instead of smoke shops peppering every fucking vacant strip mall storefront, you would see like motorcycle customization places.
I've been looking really hard at electric cycle
Candy
rider.
vape.
Giant vape.
Yeah, just a big ass vape pen. I believe they call those bongs.
Yeah,
but,
just ripping electric wizard clouds. All right. Anyway.
but yeah, so I've been looking at electric cycle rider. They have the Suron Ultra B. So this Ultra B is a sort of 9/10 the size of a full-size dirt bike, electric bike, and they've just recently put out their stage 3 kit for it. Bigger battery, bigger controllers, bigger motor, all of this shit that just makes the bike be off-road beast. I think that is so the amount of tweaking that people are starting to do with stuff like Surons and Talaria and all that is really cool, and I'm dying if Lewis from Solar is watching this, dude. I'm dying to get my hands on the Eclipse because I want to start playing with it. But I think that we're getting there with these smaller, more attainable electric bikes, and the coolest part about those is you can hot swap the batteries.
That, and you're tapping into a lot of like single young guys who've got money and time to do that stuff for it to proliferate. So,
and I mean, you could just park one in your apartment.
Yeah.
Which that's really the cool thing, is you can just park it in your apartment. I think we're getting kind of close to the end of this one. One thing I want to dispel here is the recharge issue people have. So how many times have you seen, well, maybe y'all may not have seen it, but I see it all the time is, okay, it's fun now, but what's the cost of replacing the battery on these bikes?
Oof.
Because
how much is it? Do you know?
It's expensive. It's like $3,000 or something like that, $3 or $4,000.
What? What's the life of one?
That's the thing. People look and they
30
see
years?
it's 1,000 cycles for the life of the battery. Okay, yeah, sure. Maybe it's 1,000 cycles for the life.
1,000 cycles.
Full charge. It's full charge to like 20%, 20 to 15%. So
1,000 doesn't seem like a lot.
it really is, because it's 1,000 DC fast charge cycles. Because the difference between DC fast charge and AC, it's a whole other world. DC fast charge is an incredible strain on these batteries because you're dumping, 15, 20 kilowatts into this battery like that. That's how it charges them so fast. That puts an incredible strain on the cells. If you're just doing it at your home in AC, your battery will never, ever die. Your battery will last forever.
But 1,000 cycles, if you've got roughly 100-mile range, that's 100,000 miles.
That's the other thing. How many people have 100,000 miles on their motorcycle?
That's crazy. Even cars, you're likely to need a new drivetrain if you buy the wrong
Don't even
car
get
at
me
100,000
started on that.
miles.
Why do people think 27,000 miles is a lot on a boxer engine, like on a 5-year-old bike? I don't fucking get that. But yeah, nobody's. What is the average mileage that people are clocking?
I mean, even if you're doing, like you ride both bikes to the point that they die, you're going to encounter more maintenance cost over the life of a gas bike than the one time you have to replace your battery on a
That's true.
on an electric bike.
That's true.
The reality is
$3,000 to do that is significantly cheaper.
I mean, that's 2 Desmo services on a Ducati. Ducatistas out there who are like, why is Ducati sponsoring Moto E? Maybe that's why. Because they are just cheaper. They cost more up front, but they are cheaper vehicles. Yeah, they don't ride for super duper long. Totally get that. But they do end up being cheaper. I mean, when Stefano broke those numbers down to me, and like Josh just did, where he stumbled through the plate glass of truth, that it's 100,000 miles at 1,000 charges. I was like, oh, now I fucking get it. I wish we could just make people do that mental math all the time. And then so many people would just shut the fuck up.
And that's what we want, ladies and gentlemen. To wrap it up, we want you to shut the fuck up.
That's a little bit aggressive. But
No, we don't want them to, because if they're angry about something, it gets us something to talk about.
Exactly. So let us know your rage down below. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, don't be afraid to tell people to shut the fuck up either. It's some people just, they're not thinking about these things, and I get it. Like, I love motorcycles. I love ICE motorcycles. Absolutely love them, but I'm not worried about electric motorcycles. It doesn't enrage me, and I think it's unrealistic if you're gonna have a temper tantrum because your favorite YouTuber rides an electric motorcycle. That's absurd. That's your problem.
The electric boogeyman is not coming to steal your gas bikes in the dead of night, and neither is the government.
Wow, that's a paranoia problem.
Go study the transition from horse and buggy to automobiles. Like, really go study it.
People wanted faster horses.
Nobody wanted a gas car.
Nobody wanted a car.
They were not interested in it. It took the government coming in and building roads all around the country for people to actually adopt it. And we're not going to see anything like that happen nowadays.
Well, guys, on that note, I think we're going to wrap it up here. Let us know your thoughts. If there's a comment section on whatever audio stream you're watching this on, or in your mind, or you can send us an email to bottomsprocketpod @gmail.com. We'll have the thing on screen so you can actually send us your hate mail, and maybe we'll respond to it in a future episode. But while you're letting us know your thoughts, if you enjoyed this, please do subscribe to the Bottom Sprocket channel on YouTube. That will unlock a lot of tools for us to continue to grow the channel and the podcast as my voice cracks and I go through puberty for the second time. Very, very important tools that YouTube buries until you hit 1,000 subscribers. So please do help us get to 1,000 and then 100,000, and then we'll be 1,000,000, and then suddenly we'll be the Joe Rogan Experience on 2 wheels.
Look, if we get to 1,000, we'll all dress up like popes, nuns, and monks.
I have my dog collar shirt sitting in.
I've got my pope costume. You guys want to see it? Then come on, let's go. Come on.
I'll dress up. Yeah, that's fine.
Sweet. And on that note, guys, we will call it a episode. We'll catch you guys in the next one. We'll see you later.